You're watching Breakfast Central, and let's begin with stories in South Africa. Now, between 2020 and 2021, at least 14 countries in the continent have postponed their elections due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the latest country to potentially join that fold is South Africa. Now, yesterday, the country's Independent Electoral Commission received a recommendation that the local government elections there that are scheduled to hold for October this year should be postponed.
Now, the recommendation came from an inquiry that was held by the retired Chief Justice Musinike. Joining us this morning is Terry Seleni, the Executive Chairman of the Institute of Electoral Management Services in Africa. Good morning, Mr. Seleni.
Good morning to you and to your viewers.
Mr. Seleni, now the former Chief Justice recommendation to postpone the election is what a lot of people are talking about in South Africa. What do you make of this recommendation? Do you think it's a fair decision in the circumstances?
I think it is fair. In fact, I would have been surprised if Justice Musinike had not actually recommended that the elections be postponed. Largely because, as you may be aware, that the pandemic in South Africa has really wreaked havoc. We have had so many people dying of this pandemic, and the infection rate is going higher and higher each day. Now, this has been compounded by the fact that the president has also imposed restrictions on society. The citizens have been confined to their homes, and also political parties are unable to exercise their political rights as a result of this. Now, these are some of the factors that really made it almost difficult to deliver the elections that are free and fair under the circumstances.
All right, Mr. Seleni, what implication does a postponement of this nature have for South Africa? And does it say anything about the state of electoral democracy in the country?
Not at all. I think, the fact that the Electoral Commission has decided to go this route, and so many political parties and so many civil society organizations participated in this inquiry, it's testimony to the fact that democracy in South Africa is alive, and that the whole society has actually been involved in this decision of whether to postpone the elections or not. Ordinarily, in certain circumstances, the commission would have recommended the postponement without involving the society. But because we are a democratic society, the commission had to get an independent, retired former Deputy Chief Justice of the country to head up the inquiry. And he involved quite a number of experts, civil society organizations, political parties, in arriving at the recommendation that he has arrived at.
Right. Now, Mr. Seleni, the election was supposed to take place October 27th of this very year, 2021. But now that the recommendation has been made, what is the process that follows from here? I mean, is it correct to even say that the Independent Electoral Commission doesn't have to accept the recommendation in any way?
Well, it is unfathomable that the Electoral Commission would institute an inquiry and not really carry out its recommendations. But I think it is important also for me to emphasize this, that the Electoral Commission in South Africa does not set the date of the elections, and therefore does not have a constitutional capacity, or it's not competent to postpone the elections. The person who is responsible for setting the date for the election, for the municipal elections in South Africa, is the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma. Now, it means she is the only person who can postpone the elections because she's got the constitutional powers and legal authority to postpone or to set an election and also to postpone them. So what the Commission nevertheless has is a constitutional mandate to ensure that the elections are free and fair. Now that they instituted this report basically has empowered the Commission to approach the minister and say to the minister that they, as the Electoral Commission, are unable to ensure free and fair elections as per their obligation in the Constitution, and that they are recommending to the minister that the elections be postponed. Now, the minister will then take that information, go to the Constitutional Court, obviously with the support of the Commission, and motivate to the Constitutional Court for the postponement of the elections to the date that has been recommended, if she agrees with that date that has been recommended, which is February 2022.
All right, not so far, you have to say, but going into the next year. But Mr. Selane, before we let you go, South Africa is not the first country on the continent to postpone elections. The others have continued despite COVID-19. I wonder what you make of those, especially looking at your organization and the observations you've seen from the Institute.
Well, the majority of the countries that held elections in the continent and elsewhere, they did not have the kind of the situation that we have in South Africa, where there are restrictions that have been imposed by the president. Political parties in those countries were able to canvass for support. They were able to have rallies and then use their traditional methods of campaigning. But in South Africa, as a way of trying to deal with this pandemic, the president has imposed restrictions on the country. And then these tight restrictions include citizens being confined to their homes and political parties and political gatherings being banned. Now, when this happens, it means that it becomes difficult for citizens as well as for political parties to exercise their rights. So the situation is slightly different from what we have actually seen in other countries. If you look at Ethiopia or you look at Malawi, you'd find that there was liberalization of the political environment, where political parties could have rallies and then canvass for support, to their constituencies. That situation is not there in South Africa.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Terry Selane, Executive Chairman of the Institute of Electoral Management Services in Africa, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central, all about navigating elections and COVID-19. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you very much.